Thank you so very much, also, Papa, for that wonderful musical presentation. Odeanema, Otorayoto. Necessarily, we are one again. Opening was people. Yammer, I cannot. Asusibo na abota pion kuno lagi keola ebaina amu ombe Emmanuel anak orang bos Like what they see. People, or one of them got on attack. Maka Owago. Nele Banana 1929 about revolt. I had about this revolt so many years ago as a child history. So today, then I had the part of the anchoring related Obitron Korean Nina. I'm a mama. Uma tomo one. How one no. One people calling each other. Because here we don't agree. Yeah, how can they move? Always so ya nanti roho moka jipere salamanda na otu nimende kale jiwe ni uko na mema amuna wani oma kusiri mweka mula wani amuna jibu emene aganyo ndewa kana wo kamera ga amuna wo ina bakande malu musuh aku ini mana promoni kami oleh laporan itu mak namun aja mana basi I have in this place Nina Moro. Please put your hands together. Wonderful event. Siapa di Bogor Thank you, Mr. Postman. The moment I got in here this morning, I cited the environment and the theme of this program. I was highly elated, so happy. Wondering how women sit. People of authority, people of great minds. The world, we can say the world was in darkness during ages. Women could rise on 6 warrant chiefs because of a common goal. Wondering, do we still have such women today? Do we still have such women today? I believe we can. We have them. All we need is courage. All we need is boldness. All we need is a belief in ourselves. So today, we are going to see how women from this side of Nigeria can cause a revolt and take back what belongs to them. Not through their bottom powers, some people will say, but through the enormous grace that God has bestowed on them. These women came together and discovered that irrespective of the harsh situation that is being presented to them by the colonial masters and colonial rules, irrespective of the differences in their color and language, that with what they have, they can take back what belongs to them. And this is what we have come to advocate today, that we can take back what belongs to us. What of Igbo people and what we can.
Thank you so very much, ma'am. Please, for those of you that are here already, please, I want you to rise on your feet. See, women have gone cold over the years, but a man, by his God-given abilities, decided that it's time to steer them off again. Please, I want you to rise on your feet and put your hands together for the convener of this great event. Dr. Owerri, former Commissioner for Homeland Security, Imo State. Please put your hands together for them. Thank you. God bless you immensely. We want to start this program because we don't want to keep people waiting. Anybody that meets us at the point he meets us, he will join us. We give them update of where we are and we continue. Please, I want the protocol people, those in charge, to start giving us names so that we can make recognitions. Aina batando bani. Aina batando biwani. Aina aho. Here are a preview of the programs, speakers and paper presenters. Then I batando the guest of honor. The guest of honor bata and the national anthem. I'm a child, I'm a zero opening prayer now. Yammer. Ebana Owerri collecting names of our dignitaries that are here already. Let me make way for one of, before we bring back to the stage, one of the best prolific music personalities in this part of the world of Subaba. Let me allow Professor Dr. Morgan to make a few recognitions and then we'll bring him back to the stage. Thank you. Dr.
Thank you very much. I want to quickly recognize the presence of Professor Eugene Opara, the former Honorable Commissioner, Ministry of Petroleum Resources, Imo State. Professor Eugene, we appreciate your presence. Thank you for coming, and thank you for coming on time, which shows that you are much interested in the program of today. May we also welcome Mr. Sunday H. Mbele, Institute of Public Health, University of Nigeria, Nsukka. Sunday H. Mbele, wherever you are, we appreciate you. May I quickly recognize Professor Stella Ngozi. Okay, Professor Stella Ngozi Nemachi, the Vice Chancellor of Owerri Federal University of Education, Owerri, ably represented by Professor Lucy Apakama, Professor of Igbo Culture and Anthropology, Owerri Federal University of Education. Professor Apakama, we appreciate your presence. Thank you for coming. We also have the presence of Honorable Adendoma, APC Chairman, Ezilite. And the last on the list of what I have for now is Team Elomba, This Down News and DDM Media. Team Elomba, wherever you are, we appreciate your presence. Thank you for coming. I want to tell us that we have a lot of interesting activities today. When you look at the list of our programs, I want to tell you that this program is not a dull program at all. We have so many things to be done here today that will keep you busy. Like my colleague says, after the opening prayers for Kolanons, we'll have lift up every voice and sing. It's a musical performance. And then we'll have welcome remarks by Dr. Ugoji, the convener of this program. And then Her Excellency, the First Lady's remarks. Then we'll have the children's performance. Coming next to that will be the history of the revolt, key speech by Professor Chima Korie, and then the women of Faba, a performance by microphonist. Chairman's opening remark will be taken by Professor Chinwe Obaji. Then she is eternal, a poem written by Ugoji. Then comes the chairman's remark. We have two chairmen here. The chairman's remark by His Excellency Governor Ikeji Ohakim, the former governor of Imo State, and then we'll get into goodwill messages, and Ezimo's remark by His Royal Majesty Eze Dr. E.C. Okeke, Chairman of Southeast Council of Traditional Rulers, and then spoken word performance by Deborah Ozoma and Chidebere Silva. A Iyaloja general speech by Dr. Mrs. Folashade Tinubu Ojo, then the governor's speech by His Excellency Senator Hope Uzodinma CON, the governor of Imo State, then the national anthem. Ladies and gentlemen, you can agree with me that it is not a dull program. It's a program full of excitement. So many things for you to learn today, so many things for you to witness that will make you happy. And what do we say to the convener of this program in the person of our own dear brother, Sir Ugochi, the former commissioner for Homeland Security. Please, a round of applause to him. A round of applause to him. Please put your hands together. I don't know if we should start immediately. I don't know if we should start. DJ, please, can we have some musical interludes while we confer with the convener of this program? Can we have some music? Those beautiful, rich, Igbo cultural music. That is like a soothing balm to our soul each time we listen to them. Or we remember. Go ahead. on the 1929 About Women's Revolt. And this program is being organized by Owerri Educational Foundation. And on behalf of the conference organizing committee, you are being welcome today to this occasion. May it interest you to know that this year marks the 96 years in the making since after Aba Women Revolt. And what is this revolt all about? Aba Women Revolt, I want to bring a little bit of this history to your knowledge. Took place in 1929, like I said earlier. This protest broke out when thousands of women from the 6 ethnic groups in Nigeria, namely Igbo, Ibibo, Efik, Ogoni, Ijaw, carried out what I will call the mother of all protests. These women came together without minding their gender or that the fact that the society see them as weaker vessels. They took the bull by the horn. And what was the agitation for? The women were mandated by the warrant chiefs to start paying tax. And they said they cannot take it. And apart from mandating them from the paying tax, they were restricted from participating in the activities of government. Women know that they are endowed with special gifts as organizers. And any place where a woman is not found, that place is not complete. Because God has endowed in them this motherly virtue with which they try to bring the society together. And these women in those days were treated as if they are nothing. That was why this group of women came together. From this basis I called and led a war to dethrone the warrant chiefs and burn down about 16 courts. Both men, women burning down what we may call 16 police stations, without minding the guns, without minding the tear gas. They went and brought down 16 courts. And while this was going on, the government had to call them and ask them, what is the problem? The one that made me to laugh is that they brought some men and sat on them. This is the one men will not want to hear. How can a woman sit on a man's head? These women must have gotten some kind of guts. And I call it grace. It can only be God. Hello? They say we are weaker vessels. So how come that they were able to subdue men and sat on them to make their demands? I want to say that we were not alone in this battle. I'm sure God endorsed that battle. Could you please put your hands together for women? God was with them in that battle. They brought down so many things. And then, based on that protest, the British had to call them and dethrone the warrant chiefs. And what we now know as clan heads were appointed. And women were not given the opportunity to participate fully in government. That is why today you can see women presidents, you can see women governors, you can see women occupying potential position in society, contributing their God-given, wisdom to make the society better. So that battle was not in vain. And I want to tell you that among the women that led this group, one of them came from Owerri. Could you please put your hands together? No wonder they say Owerri came back. The leaders of this group, one woman from Owerri and another one from Calabar, They went to these 6 geopolitical zones, gathered thousands of women, and moved straight to the streets and protested. And eventually they got the liberation they sought after. The liberation, people like you and I, those of us that are women, are enjoying today. If it was not for that revolt, probably we would have been sitting at the very back of this hall when we come to an occasion like this. It was our revolt that gave us a voice. Today, women, we have voices in all the different parts of government, call it anywhere, we have voice. We can offer something. And what we have been offering actually have been helping in shaping our society today. Bossman, do you want to say something? Want to disagree or agree? If you disagree, I will sit on your head here. I still have the power of Abba.
Put your hands together, let us kneel and God. Sitting on my head is relative. It depends on what I have in mind. Yes, because when I got married to my wife, she was a very slim woman. So she started singing in our house, we are Christians, so she started singing songs like this gospel song, everything and double. And the Lord answered and doubled everything, including my wife. So a woman that was slim, that I used to carry up, when you hear, love, make me go around. But when the Lord answered that double, yeah, they are with. And that one we do here. So when God started threatening me with sitting on my head, I laughed. This is her reality. Immediately she added weight. And this song was still constant in the house. You always hear, love. So let's say, na size, yeah, ma smile. Yes, mommy, why are you smiling? Marcia, because I'm carrying you. That's the how. Marcia, Bible says, as a man thinketh in his heart. So easy. Say my heart. I am the See no be now, I am the So, but because somebody needs to carry somebody, at times she will do what? Because we have decided to allow them to take their place. So if we allow them sit, now we allow them sit. If we allow the women to sit on heads, we want it. Maybe we have a target. Hello. And the Lord will help us achieve every of our faith in Jesus' name. So I said that to say, no woman here should come to this event having war in mind. But there's war. You come to this event having revolution, change in mind. Also know that there are some men God has positioned for you to support you in this movement. So it is not actually a war against men. It is a war against systems that are not working in favor of women. So women will also be part of these systems. So this revolution is to begin both those that are inside the wrong systems, those that are getting the backside of the system, and those that are suffering in the system. When we come together and make a move, everything will become better. So in this revolt, in this program, we want you to eventually be stirred up. As a woman, ask yourself. I was not around in 1929, yes, but I'm around in 2025. What can I do differently to change my world? How can I affect my generation positively and change things that are not working well? That is why this program is here today. So I'm encouraging all of you women, just have this at the back of your mind. Or one what against systems that are not working, not against human beings. Hello? So I won't give me like a bit. I can't have a conference. I don't know. The war is against systems that want to mitigate the gift in women. Every program, every plan, every agent that want to stop women from getting to their best potential. Holy Ghost! Oh, your work, stay up your mind. Yeah. Make up your mind that after today you will be a better woman, not just a feminist of I am answering online. Imagine you you will be a guy or younger. We want women that in their hearts they are change agents and they want to change their generation. We want to put up the fire again, the one that could make women defy the fear of death. They did not care. That is the same thing that Jesus came to do. He died. He didn't fear death. He stepped out. That's what the women did in 1929. That's what they did because they could have died. But they didn't care. So for you, leave that comfort zone after this conference. Make up your mind. Make up your mind. Now, with these few points of mine, I hope I've been able to convince you that whether you're sitting on my head or lying on my head, we are moving to the permanent side. Hello?
I quite agree with you. You know, today, civilization and Christianity have taught us that you don't get anything through physical fights. I don't actually think that men are the problem of women. Women actually are the problem of themselves. Hello? If only women can move with one voice, believe in themselves, and tell themselves, if in the year 1929, I don't think any of us here seated here today has been born or was born at this time. If these rural women can come together and take what belongs to them by force. Today, we are not talking about force. We are talking about recognizing our potentials as women and moving together with one voice to get what belongs to us. I tell you, when we come together with one mind, with one purpose, the sky is not even enough to stop us. We can break boundaries. We can break barriers. We can conquer without fighting, but through mutual belief in ourselves, loving ourselves. Because most of the times it is women that pull themselves down. And it's something I saw in this program. I don't know if you have seen what I have seen. Did you see what I have seen? Ladies and gentlemen, if I am not mistaken, I want you to rise up on your feet and give honor to whom honor is due. They just witnessed the arrival of Professor Chinwe Obaji, the woman we have been waiting for. Thank you so much, Professor Obaji, for finding you. And she's actually the chairperson of this program, Professor Obaji. You're welcome so much. Thank you for coming. And like I was saying, women should start believing in themselves. Because when we believe in ourselves and we talk with one voice, you will not just achieve one goal. We can chase 10,000. That is
everything that we take today will be offered. We call to rejoice and glorify for gratitude success. Thank you, Father, for we graciously and
in this program. Permit me this point, invite for a musical performance that is titled Lift Every Voice. Performance, please. Lift every voice. Okay, they're coming. Please put your hands together for them. Okay, those are the children, not the musical group for now. So please, let's have the group, So Baba, to play something, and it's let it be a welcome song for our dear chairperson, Mommy Chinwe Obaji, and street scholar, Professor. Man, we welcome you once again. So please, let's play something to receive her in this spirit of celebrating womanhood.
Well,
As we are ready for, and I know voice and sing. Dear mommy, here before I bring up the convener, permit me to recognize his worship, Rose Walker and Dr. Mrs. Tobichi Wanchuku. Please put your hands together for that. His worship man, you're welcome. God bless you, real good. All right, please, if you are in this hall, the reason why we are gathered is because God laid in the heart of the man to tell us about the story of what happened in 1929 and put back the fire of the kind of zeal that were in the hearts of the women that carried out the revolt in 1929 into a man. And this man did not relent. He called all of us together and we agreed. Now we are here. Let us hear from this man. Put your hands together as we receive Dr. Ugoji for his welcome remarks. Your clap is just so short. Is that how you're blessed? You want to bless this short and beautiful?
Thank you very much, Mr. MC. The chairman or chairperson of the occasion, the first female minister of education for Nigeria, Professor Chinwe Obaji. The keynote speaker for our event, who came all the way from the US to join us here, Professor Chima Korea. His worship, Rose Walker, who just joined us. My brother and friend and former commissioner for petroleum, Professor Eugene, who is here with us. The chairman of the local government from Abon-Lise, Ezini-Hiten-Lise, and Ayatin-Lise, who have joined us. Students from the schools around, universities who have joined us. Our sisters who have traveled far and wide to join us and make up the majority of the audience we have. Ndị eze na ndị yutu nọ nga ekene m ahụ Ugoji Okechukwu Ugoji ahụ nwafọ Lodge na Abon-Lise. The founder of the Ofo Education Foundation. Ofo stands for Organizing for Opportunities. OHA will organize this conference in conjunction with Market University, represented here by Professor Chima Kobe. All other protocols we go observe. I bring you greetings on behalf of the Ofo Educational Foundation and on behalf of the organizing committee that put this program together. The conference is actually a celebration that has been 96 years in making at this point. The conference for me is the most recent manifestation of my own personal commitment to the universal struggle for human rights and to the global struggle for women's rights and inclusiveness in all we do. And those of you who have joined us here this morning and this afternoon, by your participation and your presence here, you share in that global struggle for the inclusion of women at all levels of our society, including leadership. So today, we have three broad things we want to accomplish. The first is to remember. It's been 96 years, and I'm sure there are generations today who don't even know about the heroics of their grandmothers and mothers back in 1929. So the first thing we want to do is to remember. And then we want to celebrate them as well. And then finally, we want to say that there are certain ideals that those women fought for, certain values that those women, some of them, about 50 of them, I understand, died in that struggle. There are certain ideals they fought for, and it is important that as we remember and celebrate, that we take steps to make sure that we advance those values moving forward. So today, we aim to remember a remarkable period in the history of African peoples, anchored in the southern region of Nigeria. We seek to extend to the present generation and the future generations the historical memory of heroism and sacrifice of our women folk. From November 1929 to January 1930, women in virtually all the major towns in eastern Nigeria joined together to protest their limited roles in the colonial government and to protest taxation that was levied on them by that same government. As a result of that struggle and that revolt, the warrant chief system was eliminated, the unacceptable tax was removed, and there were increased respect and roles for women in governance moving forward. As such, these women became inspirations for future generations of not just women, but also of men. So we also celebrate them today. We make a conscious and intentional effort to celebrate valor and womanhood at the same time. One of the ways a people set of values for themselves is by celebrating those who embody those values. We present these women as role models for the present and future generations, models who represent a set of values we deem necessary and needed for the development of our societies. And finally, we advance. As this conference, we will work to advance these values by establishing a set of short-term and long-term actions and goals. These actions need to be operational in all settings where women are meaningfully involved and engaged. This means that in governance, in politics, in all the professions, and in all work settings where we find women, that we must not only see them, but see them at all the levels, including management, and that we must work to overcome any impediments at the workplace to the self-actualization of our sisters and our mothers. We have an evaluation form which we will share with you. We would like for you to critique the conference. Your feedback will help us to do better next time. It is our hope that this will become an annual event in remembrance of the 1929 event. Let me end by making a couple of acknowledgements. One of my favorite musicians, who is a rapper, Busta Rhymes. He says, put your hands where my eyes can see. I say to you today that His Excellency Governor Uzodimma has put his hands where all of our eyes can see. He is reconstructing, rehabilitating, and recovering all of Imo State all at the same time. Professor Ladi, who flew in last night, said she was excited to see that Owerri was lit up at night from the air as she landed late last night, which was a sight that she had not seen before. So there is great progress here in Owerri, and we salute His Excellency Governor Uzodimma for that. I also want to acknowledge the tireless efforts of a small committee of friends of mine who have helped put this together. We didn't get a chance to list them in the program for you, so I just wanted to mention some of them here. Vivian Iwu, Deborah Ozoma, Quinette Okoro, Angela Nkwo, Alex Eluboron, Roland Owakwe, Chigozurim Ofonju, Steve Obinna, and of course Professor Chima Kobe. I thank you all for the effort you have put into helping us put this program together. And so to our sisters, I will end by saying that no matter what the travails we are experiencing now, no matter how difficult these times may be, I want you to remember the heroics of your mothers and grandmothers. And in the word of Bob Marley left us, no matter what happens, no woman, no cry. Everything is going to be all right. And as Kendrick Lamar echoed decades later, we're going to be all right.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ugoji, former Commissioner for Homeland Security, for that wonderful exposition of an address. Please, another round of applause to Dr. Ugoji. You are not clapping. Please, that clap is not good enough for me. Congress of Dr. Ugoji, the convener of this program, he deserves some applause. Please do that again. Thank you. In case you are coming just now, the program is all about the conference of the 1929 about women's revolt, how we came to regain our freedom. While I was looking at the history of this revolt, I found out that women were actually the architects where we now have village heads. Hello. It was through that struggle that the warrior chiefs were, asked to resign. Then clan chiefs appointed. Because I know that in my village you have village heads. So please, a round of applause to women who instituted the cause of village heads. So we are responsible for village heads in all our villages. It's not a mean feat. The next thing we have on the list of our agenda, I don't know if you're looking at the program, is we are going to skip number 10 and do number 11. And that is no other thing than the children's performance. Children, are we ready? Are we ready for the performance? Children's performance. Okay, while they are getting ready, may I quickly get into the next agenda, which is History of the Revolt, a keynote speech by Professor Chima Korea. Professor Chima Korea, are you around? You're around, please. It is your turn. You have the floor. Please, a round of applause to Professor Chima Korea. Continue to clap your hands until he climbs off the stage. That is the much you can do to me. Thank you, our erudite professor. You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Now today, because all protocols observed, I want to especially thank Dr. Ugoji for making this happen. Moniamana for a very long time. I've always believed in his ability to pull things off, no matter the odds. So I'm very happy and excited to be here and to be part of this conference. I think many people here will say, okay, well, here are water and wine, but we're very keynote. I have open wine. Let me do my own citation before I start, very briefly. I'm trained as a historian. I studied at the Owerri College of Education, Owerri, as part of the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. Myself and one other colleague were the first to make the first class in history. I went on to study history. I studied women's history at the University of Bergen in Norway, where I had an MPhil in history. My thesis at Norway was on widowhood among the people of southeastern Nigeria. I studied at the University of Helsinki, Finland, for another master's degree in history and North American studies. And then I studied at the University of Toronto for a PhD in African history and gender studies. That's why I do stuff related to women and gender. So I'm reading about Igbo women and African women in particular. But I'm also excited and interested on this matter, the 1929 Women's Revolt, because my grandmother, whom I did not meet, but has stories about her, was pregnant with my father when she went to the Women's War. So the story of the Women's War is often told in my own family. Let me begin thanking the organizers of the conference, for inviting me to give the keynote address. I appreciate their thoughtfulness in making this event an opportunity for the community and academics to come together to celebrate a very remarkable event that brought the people and other Easterners, including feminists, for its role in challenging the British sought to impose on Eastern Nigeria and other colonized societies as part of European modernity and as part of their agenda of uplifting the degraded portion of humanity. The political and economic models that characterize British colonial modernity, including the transformation of agriculture for Eastern Nigeria, the palm produce trade, and political transformations in the case of Eastern Nigeria, the warrant chief system, ran counter to the ideas and ideals of a people whose egalitarian and republican political economy created opportunity for popular participation of men and women rather than restrict any of the gender. I will begin by addressing a particular conceptual issue, the name by which the revolt or uprising is known. Past records, can you hear me? Go ahead. Yes, sir. Past records have referred to the 1929 Women's Revolt or episode as the Aba Riot, or Aba Women's Revolt, or Aba Women's War. What is the origin of these names, and why do they matter in the larger historical context? First, hello? Okay. Sorry, I was saying, Ululaya and Abara, there's Aba in every, most records of the Women's Revolt. And I wanted to, sort of think about what is the origin of the name Aba when you describe the 1929 Women's Revolt. First, the name Aba was carefully chosen by the British colonial authorities, first to discredit and limit the spatial extent and the of this popular uprising led by indigenous women against the British, the first in all of sub-Saharan Africa. The term riot also, as the British proclaimed, would suggest disorganized mob engaged in violent public disturbance, often stemming from frustration, oppression, or specific grievance involving property damage, injury, unlike peaceful protest. Riot, the term used by the British, according to British anthropologist Van Allen, conveys, quote, a picture of uncontrolled irrational action involving violence to property or persons or both. A riot neatly removes women from the picture, while the Women's War conveys an action by the women. When the British colonial logic of riot sought to diminish the opposition and the framing of the revolt as a band of unorganized and riotous women engaged in senseless destruction of property and bent on causing disorder, it communicated to London a fundamental challenge to the British colonial policies and the global response to the economic crisis of the 1920s and 1930s, and that is the Great Depression. Indeed, the women's movement of 1929 embodied many of these characteristics. But the Women's War was not an organized riot as the British portrayed it. It was not carried out by a group of women in frenzy bent on disturbing the public order. I'm going to mention a little bit more as we go on why the framing of the uprising was much more organized than the British sought to portray it. Second is the spatial spread of the revolt. The use of Aba, I think, in many respects, makes mockery of the revolt by localizing its impact and where it took place. I have a problem with the nomenclature. Certainly, some of the most destructive aspects of the revolt took place in Aba, which was a very large commercial center in the colonial period, where women destroyed European factories, broke down prisons, set prisoners free, among other actions. However, the origin of the Women's War was in a small village called Oloko in Bende Division, where the Oloko trio of Ikonia, Wandelia, Wanyeroa, among others, provided the leadership and where about 10,000 women from various parts of eastern Nigeria gathered to sit on the British district officer, Captain Hill. Around 50 to 53 women lost their lives, with many more wounded. Significant casualties occurred in Utu-Itim, Eko, where around 18 women were killed, and Ekot Apasi, where 31 women and 1 man were killed. These were the areas where the violence of colonial forces and the violence of colonialism was in full display. My preference is to refer to the uprising as Ogomowani or the Women's War, as the women themselves characterized and referred to it. Another conceptual issue is the violence of colonialism. The pacification of the so-called primitive societies as part of the white man's body was a very violent process. Recent scholarship has shown the extent to which European colonial forces committed mass atrocities and genocide in the process of colonialism. Examples abound. The Germans committed violence and genocide against the Herero and Nama people of today's Namibia. It is recorded that in what is today the Congo, 10 million people died under the Belgian rule in the Congo. The British exterminated a lot of the Kikuyu in what is today Kenya. The killing of unarmed women protesters by colonial forces during the 1929 Women's Revolt has not received the sort of attention it deserves in terms of its role or part of colonial violence. I think I wanted to point to those two issues because as a historian, it's critical to think about this in the larger scheme of historical narrative. Let me emphasize on an area of interest, perhaps, which many have ignored. When we think about the Women's War, we think about tax, but we don't emphasize how the tax is related to the larger political economy of the Igbo people, particularly how tax is related to the production of palm oil for cash, the so-called cash crops, and how this was critical in how the women framed their agitation in 1929. So in a way, I frame this also as sort of a peasant protest or movement. One that is important to think that understanding exactly that opposition to agricultural regulations and colonial taxations, land alienation were major sources of rural resistance throughout the colonial period in Africa. However, unlike the settler colonies in East Africa or Southern Africa, where issues of land and labor dominated indigenous struggles, West Africa, was faced with sort of a different, problem. Those problems include market regulations and price control. Historians highly claim that in the African context, the poor sectors of the population are much less aware of their exploitation and their than their counterparts in Asia and Latin America. This view can be contested in the case of Nigeria, particularly understanding how women responded to the British in Eastern Nigeria in 1929. The women in Eastern Nigeria were certainly aware of their exploitation. In particular, the palm oil producers recognized how the state exploited them, and they did something about it. While the early protest movements in many parts of Africa involved men, in the case of Eastern Nigeria, they were dominated by women. The acts of resistance carried out by women in Eastern Nigeria were different from those that Scott described as everyday forms of resistance. Scott's Malaysia example, he argued that everyday forms of resistance makes no headlines. This quiet and anonymous, whether or pleasant action is confined to the backstage of village life, unquote. However, we see that those were different from the case of women in Eastern Nigeria. I want to emphasize first that before the 1929 revolt, there were other sporadic protests related directly to the local economy in this part of the world. Some of those were related to introduction of produce inspection, the new government system of buying by weight. By 1920s, women were protesting the low price of palm oil and the role of marketing agencies. Along with the drop in prices, women in 1926 objected to the method of buying produce by weight, which replaced buying by measure. As a means to increase the quality of produce, colonial administrations also introduced produce inspection in 1928. Local producers have been responding to the agricultural problem by sometimes adulterating produce, in some cases by adding water to the oil to increase the quantity. In Ngwa region, Texas mixed water with palm oil to increase the weight of palm kernel. Producers left palm kernels partially cracked, sometimes leaving part of the kernel with a shell to increase its weight. These were subtle ways through which local people sought to address the conditions they faced as a result of European intervention in the local economy. In 1929, the value of palm produce had dropped by 70% in many parts of Eastern Nigeria, causing a substantial fall in peasant income and government revenue. The inability of many men to meet their tax obligation to the colonial states increased the burden on women, who often pay taxes for their sons or spouses. According to Mayerowa, in her testimony to the above commission of inquiry, some of those who could not afford to pay borrow money from their wives in order to pay their taxes. Others borrowed money elsewhere at 100% interest. For instance, if they ask for a loan of 5 shillings, they promise 5 shillings interest, bringing the amount to 10 shillings. In these accounts, women are seen as directly supporting the colonial state, while their role in the household subsidized their families. But by the 1920s, they were having increasing difficulty meeting these obligations. So, what I want to emphasize is that in Igbo land, women protested for both economic and social reasons. But the major discontent resulted from the crisis in the agricultural economy. In some cases, women suggested withholding of palm produce to force increases in price. I want to emphasize this because when we think about the women's revolt as tax, we're not linking that greatly to the nature of the economy and the crisis that we were already facing, right? Selling palm oil. If you are selling your palm oil at 50 shillings a gallon, by 1929, the price had come to 70% off, right? 5 shillings. So the crisis was real for many women. But let me emphasize on the remote and immediate causes of the revolt and see how we can link that to the larger economic problem in eastern Nigeria at this time. In 1927, the colonial government enforced the Native Revenue Amendment Ordinance. With that ordinance, direct tax was introduced in 1928 without major incidents. But those who paid the taxes were mostly men. But in 1929, a combination of administrative incompetence and insensitivity to the economic crisis in the region led the women of Oloko Bende division to start a protest that spread throughout Igbo land and Ibibio land. The revolt was sparked by a dispute between a woman called Wanyerowa and a man called Mark Emerowa, who was helping to make census of the people living in the town of Oloko under the Warren chief, Okugo. So many of you who are familiar with the Warren chief system or how this problem started, in 1929, a new DO was appointed for Oloko. Captain Hill felt that the nominal role of Oloko was not comprehensive enough because it shows the man's name, but it didn't tell how many wives, how many children, how many children in terms of allocated taxes. So, I want to make it very clear. That the process did not indicate initially that women were going to pay tax. The process that Captain Hill started at Oloko indicated that women were going to pay tax. But that the captain of the household and property would give a more comprehensive idea about the worth of each man. So, on the morning of November 18, Mark, a school teacher, who was appointed by the Warren chief, Okugo, to do the counting in Oloko, arrived at this woman's house. The woman was preparing palm oil. And when Mark arrived, he asked 1-year-old, he wants to count the number of children, the number of chicken and goats in the family. 1-year-old was aware that previously the enumeration exercise that was done was followed by tax on men. There was, I think, in her own thinking, that this time that women are going to be counted will become probably a prelude to taxing women. So, 1-year-old asked Mark, have you counted your mother? She got angry. She continued that last year they were doing the counting. After the counting, that the daughter-in-law who was pregnant died in childbirth. Somehow, perhaps in indigenous, ideas and ideology, you don't count women. You don't count women. You don't count pregnant, women as fruit-bearing trees. So, one Yoruba associated the counting with the death of the husband. I mean, the sister, daughter-in-law. And the fracas that began with one Yoruba and Mark led one Yoruba to go and beat other women who were beating for a different thing, and told them that Ogugo had given directions that women should be counted, and that this is going to be for us. That's how this revolt started at Oloko. And women sent messages throughout Igbo land, calling other women to gather at Oloko. And by the time they gathered at Oloko, there were 10,000 women or more at Oloko, sitting on the depot, whose wife had just arrived from London. If some of you who are familiar with British stuff, they do horse racing. When they do derby, it's like massive number of people. That's the way they describe it, the number of women there. Captain Hill was only saved by his wife coming to speak to the women. The women demanded later that women are not going to be taxed, which Captain Hill wrote. The women demanded that she writes a letter for each village that they're not going to be taxed. There's no photocopy, right? So we're going to write a letter for each group of people. Anyway, what I'm trying to emphasize is that this exchange between Wanyarowa and Mark led to the revolt. And women's demand for the British then was first to depose the native Para chiefs, including Okugo, which they got. Okugo was deposed and his cap taken and sent to jail. But the revolt had much more important implications. There are people who have described it, Gaile, Afibu, and others, as part of any forms of nationalism. There are feminist scholars who have looked at it as women asserting their rights and fighting for women's, rights. My emphasis is that this was much more than a feminist movement. Feminist movement is one where women are fighting specifically for women's rights. But in this case, Igbo women were fighting for the rights of the household system, including the men. So it was much more than a feminist movement. I want to emphasize also that in reality, the matters that gave rise to the conflict was not just that women were going to be taxed. They are connected to the economic crisis of the 1920s, or what is called the Great Depression, which affected primary producers all over the world. And for Eastern Nigeria, it was the palm oil that was really a matter of concern to them. I'm going to read two quotes to get a sense of how the women, when they came in Commission of Inquiry, characterized their movement and why they began to revolt. And those testimonies are contained in what is known as the Notes of Evidence, about 1,000 pages, containing the testimonies of about 400 women throughout Eastern Nigeria. On December 7, as 1929, for example, women gathered in Owerri to discuss the low price of produce. By the time, the price of 4 gallons tin of palm oil in Owerri had reduced from 6 shillings, 8 pence to 5 shillings. One woman leader, Mwani, at a meeting with a company agents in Owerri said, we wish to discuss the price of produce. We have no desire or intention of making trouble, but we have fixed a certain price for palm oil and palm kernel. And if we get what we want, we'll bring them in. We want 10 shillings a tin of oil and 9 shillings a bushel for kernel. The district officer for Owerri in 1929 also recognized that it is the price of palm produce that is actually the main reason why this agitation is taking the turn it has taken. The woman of Rockview in their petition wrote, can you please inform the general agents or merchants that we have to sell palm oil at 10 shillings a tin and 7 shillings for a bushel for palm kernel. I want to emphasize basically that the profound, let me conclude, the profound historical importance of the protest is not confined to the courageous attempt of the women in Eastern Nigeria to challenge their invisibility and resist their impoverishment under colonialism. These protests were linked to the economic crisis that gripped the region in the 1920s as a result of the Great Depression. The economic factors in this protest show the thin line between colonial political and economic policies. The women's revolt also reflected an emerging conflict between local people and the rising middle class of leaders imposed as the warrant chiefs. Certainly, the political was linked to the economic in several ways. However, the revolt highlights the crisis that emerged in the present economy. Let me make the final point here. The women's war occurred because the new system imposed by the British did not align with the Igbo traditional system, which rejected centralization and loyal dominance of the economic and political spheres of life. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Professor Chima Kore. You see, every job has its hazards. As a master of ceremony, revolt would actually make a lot of sense. Revolt would actually make a lot of sense. All this we are done because there's a future, and the future are the children. So let's have them come for their performance.
Igbo dewo no. Tata Igbo kwe. Rie. One. Kulo. My good people of Igbo land, all are telling the land, please gather and listen to our story. Yes, in the streets of Aba, there came a certain time in 1929. We had the voices of women, echoing, chanting, and demanding for justice. Justice is the answer. The people, the land, and this ingenerated the fight. Oh yes, we have come with a heavy burden. We demand nothing but justice. Our people, our story is a reminder of the past.
No more taxation, no more pain. Where is it written in our land that women are counted to pay tax? We are here to honor the Aba women revolt. Play the music, play the music, play the music. Let's celebrate.
Yay!
While we're having the children perform, we receive the presence of the Honorable Commissioner for Education in Imo State, Professor John Cliff Wandiki. It's good to have you. Welcome, sir.
That's a Rockview Foundation. That's a
Former immediate past Commissioner for Education. Thank you very much, sir. Professor John Cliff Wandiki, thank you for correcting us, especially for those that are going to write it in exam so that they will not get it wrongly. Thank you. All right, we're moving on quickly. I want to invite the microphonist for their performance. We'll take that quickly. After that, we'll move to the next program, and that will be the chairman's opening remarks. But please, let's have the microphonist come quickly. Your time starts now. Hello.
Because today they came for me, tomorrow they may come for another. For my grandpa
back is wrapped with rage, and my breast is filled with fury, and I will stop them and show them the power of a woman. The land of Abakomo, woman, my women, British coffee, that's on my products, they coffee on my head. So they will make that. They carry that product. Wait. These tax collectors, they came to your store and took all your products. And then they put you up. See now, they came to more rainy. Women of our back. Women of our back. Where did you start paying tax? Our paying tax for us. Where will they come for our produce? Not as I am concerned. The women of our back will not pay tax. We refuse to pay tax. Women of our back, let us go back home and think on this issue. We will come back in the next September meeting and discuss this issue. Let's wait.
One day. This one you are using, what is it?
You will not believe what happened today in the market. Wow. Can you believe that those tax collectors, they came to the market, our own market, they picked up gold, took all our produce, and harassed the women of Aba in the market. In the land of Aba? Yes, this particular one will shock you. Can you imagine that the government want to start taxing the women of Aba? They want to start putting tax on our women. How many things do we say now? We take care of our children. We take care of our husbands. Why do they want to tax us?
If that is the case, it's just little tax now. Just give them Udodi or people.
Oh, hey, from your mouth. Hey, Sukunamo. I'm not saying that we the women of Aba should not pay tax. From your mouth, Nani.
For peace, for rain.
Which peace?
Udochia.
You will rather live in peace. You are beginning to lose your masculinity now. You are let ask you. Don't you pay tax?
Of course, I pay tax.
Have you not been paying your tax? Why would you want to manage so to us? As long as I am concerned, we the women of Aba, we will not allow them tax us.
Already. Let them have already. Already, I am begging you, please. For peace to reign. Now
this is not time for romance. I've told you, we will face the tax officers, we will face the government, we will also face the warrant chief.
Welcome. Oh, welcome, my women, welcome. Nabdala, welcome. Thank you. You go get this side. Women of Baba. Great women of Baba. I have slept over this issue. And I can see that the British officers, the warrior chiefs, and the government have refused to lift this tax off the women. No problem. Our women, we will show them how a woman pushes a baby out. We will show them. We will show them that everyone sucks from a woman's breast. We will not forget. Women of Baba, we will show them how a British man comes out from a woman. Yes. So, see, I also observed that our men are now losing their masculinity. They have refused to confront the British rulers. They have refused to confront this issue. From henceforth, let no woman of Baba open her legs for her husband to go in. Let no woman of Baba prevent you for their husbands. As a matter of fact, if our husbands are going this way, we are going this way. Alright. That's exactly what we will do.
Let me tell you.
Ah.
Let me tell you. My leader, calm down now. It's not as if I'm not in support or agreement with what you're saying. But you know that I just got married with women. I don't know why I'm wrong. I don't know why I'm wrong. Look what I'm shouting. Hey, I am the man you're posing on. How is he going to work? Maybe that people consider too.
Nkechi, no, remain in your husband's house, until these British rulers and the tax collectors come to snatch you away from your husband. That's when you know what you have. Women of Baba. Women of Baba. Are you in agreement with me? Are you in agreement with me? We will end down to the warrior chief's office. We will end down to the government office. And we will demand that every tax paid for the woman is lifted. What?
What's wrong with these women? None of them wants to comply to this tax bill. What are we going to tell our we use more force? We use more force. No, we need to. We use wisdom and knowledge. It is necessary. It is very much necessary. Believe me.
Kaigalo. We have heard the corruption and we are here to stop evil. Yes. Our rights cannot be denied. At all. And you cannot impose something on us. War is here.
Tax collectors. We are here to receive a signed deal. That no woman of Baba will be taxed. Not just that, we are here to collect the stamp of authority of the warrant chief. Not just that, we are here to collect his cap. That's why we are here.
Woman,
Let me ask you very clearly.
why are you people here? You have the impetus, the authority, the magnanimity to come in here. How dare you? How dare you?
Women of Baba. Women of Baba. When the leaders play the music of corruption and violence, we the women of Baba, we will refuse to shake our waist to that region. They say that the commodity of a woman is her body. We will
breast. We will show them our pain, our struggle, and our daily neglect. Our women, listen. We have the full contract. We have the cap. We have the cap of authority. That's why we came now. And although women lost their lives in fighting for this cause, we have what we came for. I sat down to think of true womanhood. And I thought of all the women sitting here today. I thought of all the works you do. I thought of the Chimamanders. I thought of the Oprah Winfrey. I thought of all the works you do. I thought of all the effort you put. I thought of all the love that you give just for us. So I could be young, but I'm not strong. So I say this from what I belong. Words are not enough to explain your uniqueness. Time as close of your fierceness, I can tell of your resilience. Your beauty is second to none. You didn't need to attend a home because I have heard. I have all the people have spoken about you. Iyani Wura, mothers are good. What happened now? So one man knows on Anya. A child runs to his mother's back, doesn't know how far he is. Mothers are the best. So we the women of Aba, we represent the women of Aba. Women that fought for the cause of justice. Women that fought to gain their own rights. For we are the microphonists.
Put your hands together for the microphonists. What a drama. What a drama. What a heart. What a heart. They had the courage and they kept moving. Even in the midst of guns and spears and battens, they refused to be deterred. The reason was because they had a common voice. In those days, when they chorus, everybody will acknowledge Onishiani. Today, it is no longer like that because too much book has made them mad. Today, when women chorus and say, let's move with one voice, you see a fellow woman talking the other woman down. In those days, there were no sabotage. When they speak with one voice. They had to get to the barest minimum of exposing even their nudity in order to drive down home the message they have. Where are women? Today we have the education, we have the exposure, we have all it takes to stop with one voice and retrieve back what have been stolen from us. We may not fight, but we can conquer with humility. We can conquer with respect. We can conquer with one voice. I don't know what you have derived from this drama today, but honestly to me, I have learned so much. How about you? Please, another round of applause to the microphone. I'm going to bring a woman of substance, a a woman of wisdom, a woman of elegance to the podium. But before that, permit me to read her citation. Talking about no other person than Professor Chinwe Obaji. Professor Chinwe Obaji made history as the first ever female minister for education in Nigeria. Please a round of applause to her as she comes to the podium. Keep clapping for her. What a woman of elegance. Thank you so much. Professor Chinwe Obaji made history as the first ever female minister for education in Nigeria. When she was so appointed in 2005 in that position, she elevated the Michael Owerri College of Agriculture from a monotechnic to a polytechnic. That institution is now called Federal University of Agriculture and Environmental Sciences. As minister, Professor Obaji also succeeded in getting the federal government of Nigeria to take over the legendary Alvarenga College of Education, which is now a federal university. During her tenure as minister, she championed several reforms, including the revitalization of the Inspectorate Division of the Federal Ministry of Education. She also initiated the homegrown feeding and health program in all primary schools in the country, which was designed to attract children to school and retain them so that the nation may achieve education for all by 2015. She also introduced the post-university matriculation examination, post-UTME, empowering universities to conduct their own entrance examinations, assessments. A staunch advocate for accessible education, Professor Obaji played a pivotal role in restructuring Nigeria's basic education system. Her efforts made the education of the girl child a national priority. Her other accomplishments as minister include homegrown school feeding and health program, post-UME screening test, 1 laptop per child program, federal teachers up program, electronic education, e-education, and massive computerization in schools. Increased attention to boy education projects to reduce dropout rates. The National Outsourcing Training Institute, NOTI. Capping of enrollment in line with the current capacities of Nigerian tertiary institutions. Full computerization of the examination bodies, biometric codification of students 2019 to 2020, 2019 to 2020 records in all schools to enhance planning. She also led the Nigerian delegation to the 33rd UNESCO General Conference in Paris in 2005. And Akopa Keba ensured Nigeria's election into the Executive Board and the International Bureau of Education, IBE, facilitated UNESCO support for professorial chairs in some Nigerian universities, and sought assistance from various international organizations to turn our 3 universities of agriculture into center of excellence in agriculture, secured and deployed funding from the African Development Bank, ADB, and UNESCO for the revitalization of 6 technical and vocational colleges in Nigeria. Following her service you want to clap, you clap. It's not easy. Following her service as minister, she was appointed Professor of International Education at Voorhees College in the United States. Professor Baji is the lead expert and consultant on the European Union (EU) and Economic Community of West African States (ECOWAS) backed projects to raise awareness of human trafficking in Nigeria by infusing trafficking in persons (TIP) courses into the educational curriculum of over 300 colleges of education. She also leads a team of subject matter experts from national government agencies to develop a robust semester curriculum and facilitated all events for a master teaching training session with the postgraduate colleges. She is a visiting professor on trafficking in person studies at Jarvis Christian College, Texas, USA. An alumni of the University of Nigeria in Nsukka, Professor Baji is the chairman of Quality Education Foundation, QEF, a consulting agency focusing on the implementation of programs that improve literacy across Nigeria. She was awarded the Icon of Morality by students in 2006 and received the Kwame Nkrumah African Leadership Award of Ghana's 50th Independence Anniversary in 2007. She has also been recognized as the Ambassador for Peace in Imo State. Ladies and gentlemen, may I present to you Professor Chime Obaji, an erudite professor. Thank you so much for
ladies and gentlemen, it is with deep humility and gratitude that I stand before you today, here in Owerri, the heartland of Igbo land, to chair this historic conference, marking the 96th anniversary of the historic Eastern Nigeria Women Revolt of 1929. I stand before you today not only as an academic, but as a daughter of the soil, a custodian of our collective memory, and a voice echoing the unyielding resolve of those extraordinary women who rose when silence was no longer an option. I commend the Owerri Educational Foundation and its visionary convener, Dr. Ugoji, for creating this vital space for remembrance, scholarship, and moral reflection. Nations that forget their heroes or misname their revolutions risk losing their soul. Societies progress when they pause, not merely to celebrate, but to interrogate their past and realign their future. This conference offers us that opportunity. What we are remembering today was not a riot. It was a revolution, a women's war of woman. In 1929, Nigeria was governed through colonial systems designed for extraction rather than justice. The warren chief system, which was adding to Igbo political culture, and it vested enormous authority in individuals who were often unaccountable to the people they ruled. The spark of resistance came with the proposed taxation of women. That spark became a flame when Mayarowa confronted the warrant chief who sought to count her property. What followed was extraordinary. Women, market traders, farmers, mothers mobilized across Aba, Oloko, Ben, Owerri, and beyond. Through kinship networks and market associations, they organized mass action, employing indigenous political tools, such as sitting on a man. Their voices rang out. We will not pay. We will not be counted like those. That uprising spread rapidly. Colonial offices were occupied, records destroyed, and authority challenged. When the dust settled, over 50 women have been killed by colonial gunfire. Their sacrifice compelled reforms, weakened the warrant chief system, and planted seeds of political consciousness that later failed Nigeria's independence struggle. These women were not university graduates. Many of them were not literate by Western standards. Yet, they possessed political intelligence, moral authority, and civic courage that even today's educated elite might envy. They organized through market networks, women associations, and indigenous knowledge structures. They transformed the colonial administration of African women into a strategic advantage. They proved a timeless truth. Leadership is exercised, not appointed. Power resides not in titles, but in organized people bound by purpose. The Aba Women Revolt was not just an isolated event. It belongs to a broader Nigerian tradition of women resistance. A few years later, in the Southwest, the Aba Women's Revolt, led by Funina Ransom Kuti, confronted unjust taxation and authoritarian rule. Across ethnic lines, Nigerian women demanded accountability from colonial authorities and from local power structures alike. They were not acts of disobedience, they were acts of destiny, assertions of women's rights to dignity, voice, and participation in governance. And so, we must now ask ourselves the most uncomfortable question. What lessons have we learned? Can we honestly say that we, the women and leaders of today, are living up to the moral courage, discipline, and communal strength of our foremothers? Can we say that? Our women of 1929 fought to preserve values and protect economic and moral fabric of society. Today, however, we confront a different kind of crisis, a crisis of values, character, and conscience. We see rising insecurity, drug abuse, human trafficking, organ harvesting, moral confusion, commercialization of relationships. These are not imported problems. They are born from our homes, communities, and reflect failures of moral leadership. This signals a need for another kind of women's revolt. The first was against external domination. This one must be against internal decay. For the Southeast, the report reminds us of our heritage of accountable leadership and women's authority, embodied in institutions such as Umuada and market associations. As the region confronts marginalization and insecurity, This history calls us to 1. Strengthen women's entrepreneurship as engines of inclusive growth. 2. Invest in education that respects indigenous knowledge. And reject unaccountable leadership, whether colonial or contemporary. For Nigeria as a whole, the report speaks powerfully to our present. No taxation without representation. No development without grassroots impact. No democracy without women. Women constitute half of our population, yet occupy less than 10% beyond symbolism to structural inclusion. Let these conference not end and photographs. Let it back women's cooperative and cultural archives. Value reorientation initiatives rooted in our traditions. The integration of the 1929 vote into school as community programs. Yes, the arts, academia, and governance unite again, as they did nearly a century ago. To our young women, I hope many of you are here. Your value is not in beauty or material display, but in knowledge, virtue, and courage. To our leaders, the voice of the market woman matters as much as the decree of the politician. The women of 1929 sang as they marched, they danced as they defied oppression. And although many were martyred, their legacy whispers to us still. We are the roots that hold the tree, uproot us, and the mighty fall. May we, the inheritors of this legacy, nurture those roots so that Nigeria may stand tall, united, just, and prosperous. God bless the leaders of Nigeria. God bless Imo State. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Please rise up and honor this woman that blessed us in the time, during the time she served actively in the education sector. Thank you, Prof. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Please put your hands together one more time. Wow. Thank you. Please may I have a seat. Prof said it all. The fight continues. Now, some of them are no more the ones that you go to the market to fight. Some of them.
Important conversation. Hello, distinguished guests. My name is Stephanie Linus Lee Okereke. I'm truly honored to be part of this important conversation, and I wanted to begin by apologizing for not being with you in person today. I wish I would have please know that half people support are very much present. The Owerri Riot of 1929 was far more than a protest. It was a powerful, organized movement led by women who stood up against injustice, economic exploitation, and the silencing of their voices. Those women challenged colonial authority at a time when women were expected to be invisible. They used unity, courage, and collective action to demand fairness and dignity. In doing so, they laid an early foundation for women's political consciousness and resistance in Nigeria and across Africa. This history matters because it reminds us that women have always been central to social change. The Aba women were not reacting out of chaos. They were asserting their rights, protecting their livelihoods, and shaping the future of generations that followed. I am currently developing a feature film inspired by the Aba women's Riot, with deep respect for the women who led this movement and the historical truth behind it. My goal is to bring the story to a wider audience, especially younger generations, using film as a tool for education, remembrance, and guide. I look forward to collaborating closely with historians, government institutions, cultural leaders, and partners who are committed to preserving and honoring this legacy. This story belongs to all of us, and it deserves to be told with care, accuracy, and pride. Thank you for keeping this history alive and for allowing me to be part of this meaningful moment. I look forward to continuing this work together, and please do enjoy the rest of your event. Thank you so much for having me. Bye.
Thank you so very much, Stephanie Linus Okereke, for that wonderful. We received the apology and it's okay. Thank you for your time. All right, we're moving on quickly. And I want to invite for a poem titled She is Eternal. A poem by Ugoji. Please put your hands together as we receive for the poem. Yes.
She is eternal. Steeped in divinity, she gives life.
I met God in the cabinet of His Excellency. Distinguished proposals of him, and we are all members of that cabinet. And for the first time, I had Ministry of Homeland Security. We never had it before, anywhere here. So when I looked for met him and asked him, he appears to have a background in that area of security, all the way from the United States. And he brought it and established it there. Today we are continuing with that Ministry of Homeland Security, which means he's somebody who has brought innovation in the state. And when he came up with this idea of 1929 about women in the vote, I sat down and I was thinking, so what is in this man's mind? What is the big thing about this women in the vote that became so important that he had to organize a big conference, inviting all the big names to be here? Looking at the former minister, Dr. Ms. which means it's something very serious. And sitting here listening to the story, especially by Professor Owerri, I never knew that he would have a very long history. For the period he exposed issues here, that was when I realized that for every action, there must be a reaction. And I begin to think about what they say. They say action and reaction are always equal and opposite. So what he said, when I listened to him, what I understood was that the women didn't just react. There was a policy, government policy that was irritating to them, and they said they were not going to accept it. Did you observe that? Yes. There was a government policy that was against how women saw that the study should run smoothly, and they said, this policy will not allow it to stand. And that was what I observed that happened. Even in the drama by the team that came up here, it was also the same story about that action against a policy that they didn't want. So you can find out that even the government as we have today in Nigeria, there are certain things they put in as policy. And the people, when they don't like that, they begin to complain. If nobody's listening to them, they will now put their weight down and out. So, Dr. George, you have opened our eyes to the idea that governments must put policies in place that align with the people's expectation. You are in government, you didn't put yourself there. It was people that put you there. Therefore, you must listen to them and what they want. Now, a major issue about that 1929 about women's riot is that in the British colonial times, we had two systems of governance in this, in what they call Nigeria those days. They had two systems. In the north, they were operating on the emirate system, that a single person who the British will deal with, and he will now pass the information down to everybody who always obeyed them. But down here in the south, we didn't have that system. We had an egalitarian society where everybody participated in governance. If there's anything to discuss, an issue to discuss, all the men we gather, everybody puts on his opinion and they come up with a solution, and that becomes the acceptable solution. It is different. So it was difficult for the British to rule Nigeria down here in the south. Because it was difficult for them to start dealing with everybody. That was why they started having what we call the warrant chiefs. And it's a brand new development here, or people didn't accept that. And that is one of the reasons we had the Aba Women Riot. The warrant chiefs will sit down in their offices and begin to judicial policies without consultation. And people will protest, say we won't want that. We're not going to accept that. So Dr. George, for you to have come up with this, I commend you. I commend you very seriously. Because a lot of people didn't understand what this meant. And I don't know, Professor Coley, if you have any paper on this thing related to it, I would like to have a copy. Because I want to go and study more deeply what is behind that about women's riot. So please, Dr. George, I know a lot of things are in your head. I know how you think. We will always discuss. Please come up with more things. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Eugene, for that exposition. From what he said, I learned that the government should be made to understand. Because when I was watching the drama, I saw that the women didn't start at first with violence. Are you getting me? They made their points clear. It was actually when there was a resistance that they now went and recruit. And when they went, they went.
na-ekele n'ụzọ ọpụrụ iche mmadụ niile nọ n'ebe a maka mmemme nke ụbọchị a. N'eziokwu, amamoto m ga-esi buru abụ ekele bunye ọkammụta Ugochi maka atụmatụ ọma ndị ofe mmanụ, ndị ugwu na ndị ọzọ dị iche iche. Ha na-eji ihe nke ha akpọrọ ihe na-eme mmemme ncheta maka ihe ndị mere mgbe ochie. Mana ala Igbo ihe mee ya kwụsịrị. Maka ndị ga-eduri abịa, ana m ekele unu. Ụbọchị taa bụ ụbọchị anyị ga-echeta oge nwere aka anyị. Ụmụ nwanyị na ụmụ nwoke ndị mere anyị ihe ejije ha emecha ihe niile. Ọka nkụzi Chimakoye ekwuo ihe niile gbasara ya. Nna anyị Ugochi ewere edemede n'ụzọ pụrụ iche kwuo ike ụmụ nwanyị na-akpa. N'eziokwu, ewepụ ụmụ nwanyị n'obodo, obodo atọkpọrọ n'efu. Ụmụ nwanyị ga-eji aga mba. Mgbe m na-ege ihe ọgụgụ nkụzi nwaanyị ọma Chimọba bi na-enye, amamoto obi dị m. oge ọ bịara kwuchi ihe niile o kwuru ma na-asị eji m n'aka na mmadụ niile n'ebe a ọ kachasị ụmụ nwaanyị ghọtara ihe ndị o kwuru. Mgbe o kwuchiri okwu, onye na-arapịa ihe onye kwuru ekwu bịa were igwe eji ekwu okwu kwuo ihe niile o kwuru, gbadobere isi si ụmụ nwaanyị ele ebe anyị nọ taa. Maka ndị na-amụ anyị, ụmụ nwaanyị bụ ndị na-adị ike n'ala Igbo, nwee oke, nwee ọrụ pụrụ iche tupu ndị ọcha bịa. Oge ndị ọcha bịara, ha ewere ha na-azọgbu, emegide ha, azọtụ ha. Ikikere ha nwere n'ala Igbo, n'ala Naịjirịa, n'ala Afrịka, ndị ọcha na-eme ka ọ na-eru ala. Chineke eme ebere, ụmụ nwaanyị Igbo asị mba, ọ gaghị eme. Onye ha ekiri igbe asị mba, anyị aka ha nọ ebe a nchaba anyị n'anya. Ndị ọcha abịa abịa wee nye ha ndị ọ na-emegide anyị. Ozuole ka ha kwuru na ozuole ha eme ya. Ọtụtụ n'ime anyị amaghị na mgbe ha mechara mmemme a, ndị ọcha bịara wede ha n'usoro ọchịchị. Mgbe mụrụ ha ụmụ nwoke na-achị, ebidozie na-anabata ụfọdụ ụmụ nwaanyị n'ebe dị iche iche. E nwere ihe ndị ime na-anya ejije mere. Ihe echi ike n'ala Igbo, nwaanyị ime efe ya n'ime na igbe ihe ebisi n'aka Chineke. Ha eyipụrụ efe, ọwụ ka ha eme na sinima, kama ọ ka ha eme ihe dị mma n'ala Igbo, n'ala Naịjirịa, n'ala Afrịka. Ụmụ nwaanyị Igbo, ụmụ nwaanyị Naịjirịa, ụmụ nwaanyị Afrịka, ọ nọ n'ime unu ka ihe dị mma, ka ọ nọ n'ime unu ka na-ekiri unu. Ihe emebiwo, ụmụ nwaanyị na-agbasirịtọ, ọwụwụ ka ihe dị mma, kama ọ ka na-ekiri ha. Ụmụ nwaanyị na-agbasirịtọ, ma ndị lụrụ di, ma ndị agbọghọbịa, obodo anyị na-emebi. Ụmụ nwaanyị na-amasị aka wuti ụmụ ha ndị nwaanyị, ndị lụrụ di na-ama aka wuti dị nke nwaanyị, onye ga-abụ ụtọ karịa. Ọwa arụ ala, ọwụ ihe ọjọọ. Akwụkwọ echiche anyị 1929-1930 hụ ike ụmụ nwaanyị gbara. Anyị ga-akpọ n'ike ahụ n'ụbọchị taa dịka onye MC na-abịa anyị n'ajụjụ. Anyị ga-akpọ n'ike ahụ n'ụbọchị taa. Ọka nkụzi Chima Ọbaji bịara kwuo na-ekwu na-asụ Bekee na-ahụ niile ya na-akpọ ka Chile. A na-akpọpụta ihe ndị o mere mgbe ọwụ onye na-ahụ maka mmụta na Naịjirịa. Ụmụ nwaanyị dị ebe a, asụtọ ya atọ ka ebe nwaanyị minista, ọ na-arịa abụrụ nwa. Ihu ọ na-emekwu unu ebe a na-ekwu ụmụ nwaanyị. Ị na-atụkwa nwaanyị ibe gị vootu? Ị na-atụrụ nwaanyị ibe gị vootu? Ike ụmụ nwaanyị kpara 1929-1930 ya ọ bụ ihe gara n'efu. Ụmụ nwaanyị na-esi ụmụ nwaanyị ibe ha imi. Ewu ọjọọ na-apụta, onye na-abụ ose ka anyị ga-eso, ewu bụ igwe ka anyị ga-eso. Ị ga-etokọta ewu bụ igwe taa igwe ha. Afọ 1929 bụ nke e ga-enye anyị ikikere ụmụ nwaanyị bịa mee ihe n'ụzọ pụrụ iche. Onye kwesịrị ekwesị. MC, if you have anything, no problem. Biko nu, ana m arịọ ụmụ nwaanyị ka ihe a dịra taa ghara ewu ihe bụ ịkwa aka n'ọmmanya rie nri na asịa. Ụmụ nwaanyị wu ihe dịka m chukwu oyi ezinụlọ na-enweghị nwanyị ihe kọrọ ha. Ndị enyi m niile ana m agwa ha onye na-enweghị nwanyị gakwa mee adọptụ nwanyị. Ụmụ nwoke ibe m nọ nga biko na nka anyị ọkwa ndị nwanyị na-ele anyị nka. Nwa nwoke na-ajụ m site niile na nwa nwaanyị ka nne na attention ntị ya ọwa nwere gele m nka agantọsi. Enwere nwa obere nchọpụta m mere ụmụ nwaanyị nọ na villages bido anya Owerri gaa Port Harcourt gaa Lagos gaa Aba gaa Kano ile ọnya ọnụ ndị nne na nna agara si village partnership ike ya iri itoolu si n'aka ụmụ ha ndị nwanyị bịa. Ikekwa lee nne na nna si obodo anyị ala Igbo gawa ofesi ọwụ England o, ọwụ America o, ọwụ Canada o, ọwụ Germany. Nne na nna dị iri gafere itoolu n'ụkara si n'aka ndị nwanyị. Eleghị ihe anyị ga-eji bịazie ụmụ nwanyị anyị na-eleta onwe anyị anya. Ihe a mere na 2029 anyị na-eme taa bụ ihe mmepe anya. Ụfọdụ ụmụ nwaanyị tụpụrụ ọ na-eme ihe ọ na-eji aka abụọ kụrụ ọ na-ebere ya akwa ihe unu. N'ala Igbo ka m gwazi unu nke ụmụ nwaanyị mụọ Chukwu n'ebe a ọgbachiri wuru ọgbachiri wuru ezigbo ụzọ dị mma. Ụmụ nwaanyị nọ n'ọgbakọ ọ dịpụta nwoke ọbụla na-agafe maka ya wụrụ onye isi ala ma ọ bụ onye Igbo ha ga-agwa ya ka ọ bịa megide ka ọ wụọ ọchị. O nweghị ike ịjụ. Nwaanyị na-eme ure nwaanyị nwere ike ịwụrụ ọchị ọ ga-asụ oge bịa megide wee tụọ ya ọchị. Gagodo n'ime ahịa ole ndị na-ere ọchị ole ndị na-echekwa ọchị. Nwaanyị gawa ahịa di ya onye ya ego ma di ya nye ya ego ọ ga-azụta gịnị ọchị. Nwaanyị zụta ọchị ya dobe n'ụlọ. Nwoke ọhụrụ ya ma ọhụrụ ya nwoke ahụ ga-eme ka ọhụrụ ọjọọ ahụ. Enwe ọbịa ya kpọọ Mrs. si abageni ụtọ ọjị. Nwaanyị gaa nga ahụ pụta o nwere ike ọjị jiri ekete. Nwaanyị pụta gbaji etu ọjị abụla ọjị emere gịnị ọjị abụla. Nwoke ọ na-ala ekete bịa n'ụlọ ya ndị ọrụ ala ekete ha ga-atọ ọjị. Enweziri ka ọjị nwaanyị mebiri azụta ọjị dowe ya wepụta ya nye etie agadi ịsa ọjị asị nwaanyị lele ọjị ọwụ ilechiri anya. So mgbe a anaghị eji ụlọ ọjị ụmụ nwaanyị ọ na-ewe ewuli iwe ọ ga-egbu nke unu. Ụmụ nwaanyị bụ ndị Igbo ji eme ọnụ ndị Igbo ji eme ọnụ. Mmemme anyị mere n'ụbọchị taa aga m atọ ka eburu onye ụlọ mgbe ụfọdụ nwanyị na-aghọta ụfọdụ ihe ha ejere ma ọwụ nka nka. Mgbe a na-eme Ọgọst meeting gị lọbụ nwaanyị lawachie isike ya ebuje ya na friza ha ego mgbe ụfọdụ rie ahụ na obodo ọnụ ha na-ewe iwe. Ihe ọmasị gị n'omenala anyị We now know who that is everything. Okay. So the shame you get. All I want, all the things you get. You have to lose all the issue. Man, I don't see ọka mmụta Ugoji na ndị otie biko a ga-ebido n'ugbu a gaakwa n'ime obodo nweta esi ụfọdụ ihe ndị mere n'oge.
For you. Okay. Where is those? Okay, so where is the children? Chidebere.
He who comes into our land must return in peace. In our land, pure hearts find peace. Impure hearts meet ancestral justice. He said, Yagaze, these are not just mere words. Our prayers are spirits on divine mission. Since time immemorial, women have nurtured families, taking care of their husbands and children in good health and in old age. May what can kill us never cross our paths. So 1929, the whites tasked our women. They refused and revolted. Grace radiates. Femininity is in fragility. When women rise, there is no retreat. When women rise, the fight, win, revive, and restore. They remind us that it's not just about going to the market and having a clay pot, but that our drinking water should always come from it. And so when the whites arose and said they should be counted to pay tax, they boldly refused. Because revolution births new eras. Those were the concerns of the women. Those were the bodies ruminating on their mind, a meditative silence for posterity and for their children's children. The whites came, pointed their guns and cannon on them, slowly but forcefully. Tears, blood, all one became a transgenerational echo of resilience. And who said women were to be tasked? Strangers, foreigners who came to change the decree of our land. Although one has come and will become a transgenerational echo of resilience. For together we stand strong.
But who can walk in the midst of fire and not be consumed? Who can pick up hot coals on his palms and not be burned? They say a single tree does not make a forest, but if one tree sways in the wind, will that still be at rest? So every day calls on to the next. The silent removal of the old to form the new, like the cows not dripping on early morning dew upon the dry and thirsty land. It's like that tiny spider that spins out of his cocoon, shooting forth the web of strategy in which others will be consumed. But the goal is not to destroy. The essence is not to break, but to build and refuel. A dominance of will, a determination to survive, to uncover and revive, insisting that a dying ecosystem comes back to life. It doesn't have to sound big, because sometimes it's just bones to bones. It's sinews to sinews, line upon lines written in sweat and blood, bearing a message, city or fallout, but I am revolution. So revolution is the pride of lions in Serengeti. It is the roar of wildebeest as they try try to cross the Mara River as one entity. It is the gracious call of the eagle as it soars in the sky. It's a group of women rising with fuel in their eyes. No taxation without equal representation, they said, marching to the beat of freedom, unbent, unbroken. With every step, a bold declaration, resist oppression, make a stand today. Because freedom is worth fighting for in every way. For justice, for equity, for life. Fight for change, but also try to be in the game. Because of who uses cutlass in a gunfight? How can you use the wrong tool to make this right? A bumpy ride in the wrong direction is not a time to hang on tight. So be the dreamer, be the thinker, be the doer, but don't forget to be the revolution. The low places are full of habitations, but revolution says remember. Revolution says celebrate, and revolution also says advance. Thank you so much.
Wow, wow. I don't know if you're still with me.
Lectures. The rest, we will have a way of collecting your certificates. Then Dr. will handle that. I want to call on Professor John Cliff Madi reasons for that academic delivery.
I listened to jets of presentation from Professor Kimon, and now they are creating a form of consciousness in the women to move to the next level. I'm heading towards 2027. Okay. Any connection?
To what? Well, let me put it this way. Our women constitute at least 50% of our population, right? Any discussion of our present, our past, or our future that does not have our women at the center of it is not for me. Maybe for some others, it's not for me. So we are going to issue what we call the Owerri Declaration. That is a communique that comes out of this, and it will be about this event and about women in our society, specifically Igbo women, and what we need to do with them. And one of the things we're going to call for, it may not be realistic, but we think we'll call for 50-50 representation of our women in the houses of assemblies, in the houses of Senate, right, and in government circles. You know, if I become governor, 50% of my cabinet will be male, the commissioners will be women. It's just that simple. That's a commitment I've had all my life as a student, as an activist, and all of that. So going back to what you were alluding to, 2027. 2027 will take care of itself. We are going to have a new governor in Imo State. I come with an experience, not just in governance, but also in Imo State government, because I had the privilege, and I'm grateful for it, from Nahoku Zodema to give me an opportunity to serve in his cabinet and to start perhaps the only new ministry that is still in existence now, which is Homeland Security. So I am proud of that experience. I'm proud of the background I bring from my studies and work overseas. And yes, some people have approached me to look into 2027. We are still exploring. My leader, of course, is Hoku Zodema, and we are going to look to him for direction in that sense. All right? But while we are looking for direction, we will be making preparations just in case that the call comes to us, so that we know we are prepared to move forward. So yes, anything you do that brings women to the center ultimately should be helpful in politics and other things.
Yeah, thank you very much. From what you just said, it appears some people are pursuing you. And from what also you said you were looking up to Governor Hoku Zodema for direction. Do you intend to run?
Oh, we are actively exploring it. Yes, but I'm in the mourning period, as some of you may know. I just buried my father, traditional ruler. So there are certain things I can't do until the end of the mourning period. The end of the mourning period will come in May 22nd to be exact. After that date, then we'll make an announcement.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
All right.
Let's have